Hi, this is me. Hello. I am the little puppet in the corner, and I would like to teach you about Dungeons and Dragons, specifically how to make your first character. I've been playing for around 5 years now, and I would say, very experienced. And I wanted to share some of my experience with, maybe a person who, their first time playing. So let's get to it. Let's get cracking. All right. Wait, shoot. All right. So I was in the middle of making another character here, but we can start from here. So first, to get to your character creation, you're going to go here, to the top right, go down to characters, click on characters. Now you should see a screen like this. Again, you're probably not going to have any characters here, but these are all the characters that I've made over the years. I probably deleted some, but these are just some of them. You're going to click create a character. Now you're going to find these four options. So these are all valid options for making a character. Maybe all besides random. Random's just kind of funny to use. However, we're going to be using standard, as I'm assuming you have around an hour on your hands to fully flesh out a character. Otherwise, pre-made can be pretty fun if you're just looking for some stats to use and you need them real quick. But we're going to be going with standard. You could also, if you're really confused, just turn on that. But yeah, we're going to click start building. All right, so first you're going to character name and their image. Now, I have a character name already. You do not have to have a character name right now. Herbert the Horrible. That's what I'm going to be naming the character here. And that should be a capital H. All right. Herbert the Horrible, and a capital T. All right. And I like that, and I want to use a portrait here. And look, they add a bunch of pre-generated portraits, right? And look at these; these are all really cool. A bunch of different art styles. However, I'm not sure I really like any of them, so I'm gonna go to choose a file up here, and I'll be able to choose my very own portrait. So maybe you have some art of your character that you want to use, or you found a cool image on the internet. That's perfect. Now you're just gonna set your portrait, and boom, Herbert the Horrible, right there. Now you're gonna go down to here. So almost all of these, it's for your DM to worry about. So you don't have to worry about them that much. Just if they say to take away one of these options, just do that. However, I will describe what they are. So, sources are essentially the features that you'll have access to in character creation and while leveling up. So, for example, Magic the Gathering content, that's maybe classes and species that are specific to the Magic the Gathering setting. Or homebrew content, we'll talk about homebrew later, that's just more content. We're going to keep them all on for now, but if your DM says to, say, turn off Dragonlance content, you can just do that, and you won't have access to it. Then you have partnered content. So this is different crossovers that they've done with different companies, different franchises. You have stuff like Grim Hollow and the two funniest things that have ever graced the earth. I cannot believe these exist in real life. I have one of these books, actually. It's very funny that I think it exists. But sorry, it's very funny that it exists. But I'm going to keep them all on. The only one that really gives you too much content here is Critical Role content, I believe. And yeah, so again, if your DM says, yeah, no, turn on Critical Role content if you want, that's fine. Enable dice rolling. You're going to want to do that. That's just being able to roll dice on the computer, unless maybe you're doing physical. Who knows? I've never really used optional features in my 5 years of playing. However, if you're able to figure out how they work, please tell me. But yeah, so I just don't worry about them if you're, unless your DM's like, you gotta use this, which I highly doubt they will. Now for your leveling. So advancement type is essentially how your character is going to level up. There is XP and milestone. Right now we have set it on milestone, but you could choose to XP. You could choose to use XP. Milestone is essentially story-based leveling. So let's say you get to a certain point in the story, your DM will say, hey guys, it's time to level up, at which point all the characters will level up. However, XP is more like a traditional video game, let's say like in Pokemon, where one of your Pokemon, will eventually gain enough XP to level up, and the rest will be left in the dust. And depending on what type of game you're running, you may want to choose either or. If you're a DM looking at this, I would use milestone, especially if it's your first time. XP could be a real hard thing to keep track of. All right, hit point type. So we'll talk about how hit points are calculated a bit later. However, just for now, we'll keep it at fixed. So essentially, every level you'll roll a dice for your hit points, and that's how many hit points you'll gain. But that was what if you were using manual, you roll the dice. While using fixed, it's just a fixed value. So manual, you have a chance of getting a higher hit point value, but fixed, you just have a fixed value. Feats and multiclass, I would keep those on. I think they're pretty fun. However, again, if your DM says that he doesn't want multiclass or feats, it's perfectly fine. That's up to them. So feats are different, like I guess abilities that you can give your player to make them good at specific things. And multi-class is essentially going into two classes, which are essentially your character's jobs. If you don't know already, we'll go into that later. Next, you have show level skilled spells. I like to keep this on as more of a quality of life thing. Encumbrance type. So encumbrance is the amount of stuff you're able to carry before you're not really able to walk anymore. Some DMs use this, some DMs don't. Again, up to your DM. Ignore coin weight. I like to keep this on. Just basically says that your coins have weight, and then if you're super rich, you essentially can't walk anymore. Yeah, because you have too much money on you. But yeah, it says 50 coins, 1 pound. Ability score modifier display. Do modifiers on top. Trust me, it saves a lot of time. And then character privacy. So let's say you have a character that you don't want your friends to maybe see what they are. Like let's say they're hiding the fact that they're a vampire. You could choose private. And thus your friends would not be able to say, hey, wait a minute, your character's a vampire, instead of what you wanted to believe, like maybe, oh no, I was an elf. But yeah, that helps out a lot when you're trying to do that. However, you can also just do campaign only, which if you want to show off your build to your friends, that's perfectly fine. Public, I believe there's a forum where you can just check out other people's characters, so if you just want to show off your character that way too, that's fine. That's what public would do. All right, now races. So I have a lot of races because I've played this game for a very long time and have gotten races over the years. Um, I guess the term now is species. They changed that, but species, race, whatever. Um, so essentially, all these races you're gonna have the ability to choose from a couple of them, not all of these. Uh, but if you want another race, then you're thinking, oh, I want to be, say, I believe they don't have. Wait, I don't think that. Uh, I don't think that the Kenku is part of the race, the base race set. So, oh, I want to be a Kenku. You would go into the store. You'd first figure out what book is the Kenku a part of, which is Mordekainen's Presents Monsters of the Multiverse, right there. You'd look up that book in the storefront, right here. You'd look it up and you'd be able to find all the species that are there for that book. Now, from there, you're able to buy the species individually, so you don't actually have to buy the whole book. And they're usually really cheap. However, if you really don't want to do that, you could also not use D&D Beyond. Sorry, I really don't have a solution for that. I guess you could homebrew your own Kenku, which we'll talk about homebrew a bit later. But, yeah, it's just really not much you could do. Um, I am going to choose, I think that my character would be a bugbear. Where's a bugbear? Bugbear. There we go. Herbert the Horrible would be a bugbear. And once you click on the page, you can click on this for lore details and whatnot. You get, your creature type, which is essentially what you are. We're a humanoid, but we're also considered a goblinoid because bugbears are basically goblins. We're medium, which means we're around 4 to 6 feet. My walking speed is 30. That's basic for any of the things. Dark vision, can see in the dark. A lot of species have that. Fey ancestry, long-limbed, powerful build. All of these are cool features that you get from your species. So I'm going to choose the race, and boom, I got it. Now, some species will have different choices here that you can do. However, this one does not, but you'll be able to choose them. All right, next. Okay, so I was talking about classes before. This is your character's class. Now you got a lot of options here. I'll just go over, a crash course in all of them very quickly. So first you have Artificer, or Artificer, however you want to pronounce it, which essentially they're going to be building magic items, contraptions. If you wanted to play somebody who, maybe doesn't fit the classical fantasy setting and maybe has some type of technology, that's your guy. He's the Artificer. Barbarian. This is a pretty easy one to grasp. Big guy with axe goes around lopping off people's heads. They're pretty cool. They have some cool features. Their main idea is health and kind of being the tank of the party. Artificer's definitely weaker when it comes to physical stats, but there's some subclasses you could choose. Bard is I guess a bard is more of like an artistic type of spellcaster. They use, I guess, they can use music. They can use singing. Well, I guess music is singing. They can even use painting if you really wanted to. But any type of artistic expression they could kind of turn into magic. Blood Hunter is kind of a monster hunter class and is part of the Critical Role package. If you've ever played The Witcher, they're basically the Witchers from The Witcher. Um, and yeah, that's what a Blood Hunter is. You may not have access to it depending on what your DM says about the Critical Role thing, but they can be pretty fun to play. Then you have Cleric. Cleric is said to be the support class. However, it is one of the most damaging classes in the game. This is, if you're ever scared about like, oh, I don't want to be the support, pick up Cleric. You will be very surprised about the amount of horribly damaging spells that will completely obliterate your DM's encounters that you will have access to. Yeah. Druid is depending on what you choose for your subclass, which we'll talk about in a bit, can be either very much so like a tank, very much so more of a support. Sometimes they work more with AoE type spells. They're very versatile when it comes to that type of thing. However, most people are going to be using the more wild-shaped druids, which let you turn into big animals. That's been mostly good. That's the representation it's been getting in the video games as of late. I've noticed. Fighter. People say fighter's not that cool. I think it's awesome. It's your basic guy with a sword and shield. You want to play a knight, that's your guy. Monk. If you want to, do hand-to-hand combat. Any, character that you'd see in media who, as you could make a monk like Goku or, yeah, some pretty cool ones. Paladin. Kind of like cleric and fighter kind of mashed together. It's supposed to be a very high damaging class with a bit of support sparkled in there. They're pretty fun to play as well. Ranger is kind of a monster hunter class, almost like Blood Hunter, except they are more in tune with that hunter side. They're almost a fusion of fighter and druid. So if you wanted to make like a hunter character, one person that's in tune with nature, but can still knows their way around a sword and whatnot, they're your guy. Rogue, sneaky guy with a knife, maybe a bow. Very high damaging, pretty fun class to play. And then you get to the spellcaster trifecta. Sorcerer, my personal favorite class, is a caster who gets their spellcasting innately, and they have they will cast spells with their charismatic powers. Warlock, they make a deal with a magical patron, and they will get powers from that. So let's say you wanted to, my character made a deal with the devil, and that's got some powers. Warlock's your guy. Wizard is much more of a utility caster, but they, learn they learn spellcasting by actually, reading books and being nerds. I think that Herbert would probably be. I want to choose a spellcasting class so I can go over spellcasting. I'm going to say Herbert's going to be a bard. Herbert's going to be a bard. So I can give you a good idea of what a bard can do. And just, I guess, the class things. All right, so proficiencies. You could choose a couple musical instruments and a couple skills that you're good at. So I think Herbert knows the bagpipes. I think a longhorn, that'd be funny. And a pan flute. And then you could choose your skills. So the different classes will have different skills that you'll be able to be good at. So this is all the skills that you can get from I believe Bard. Bard's a very jack of all trades class, so there's a lot of them here. However, I think Herbert would probably be good at acrobatics, meaning being able to get through situations, dexterity, with your dexterity, perception, which is you being able to see things, and I guess insight. I chose insight just to clarify what this is because it's definitely one of the harder ones. But essentially, it's you looking at something and being able to discern something. It kind of goes hand in hand with investigation. But let's say you're talking to somebody and they lie. Can I roll an insight check to see if there was anything on their face that would indicate like a nervous tick or something? That's what you would do that for. Spellcasting, obviously, and Bardic Inspiration is your feature that you get at your first level. We're not really going to go from first level from here, but you could read what those do. They're pretty fun. All right, spells. We're going to go here, add spells, and here are your spells. Now, I can't tell you what ones to avoid and what ones to choose. Like, I would actually look at all of these if you're really interested. However, I'll just pick some ones that I think are pretty interesting. I'm going to learn Thunderwave. I'm going to learn Identify. And Featherfall, because I think that's a cool spell. Fire. Alright, now I'm all out of level 1 spells that I could choose. I will go into my cantrips. So, level 1 spells are essentially any leveled spells you have to use spell slots for. Cantrips you could basically use infinitely. So for my cantrips, I'll choose Mage Hand, Friends, and that's all the ones I could choose. Alright, next. Now, abilities. So these are your base stats, and probably just the most intimidating part of character creation, but we're going to get through this really easily. I'll describe to you what each of them do and the different ways we could do them. Alright, we have Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom, and Charisma. Strength, pretty obvious. Your lifting power, how athletic you are. I guess like a person with 20 in strength would be the real big barbarian, that type of person. Dexterity. Dexterity is, I guess, how dexterous you are, how good are you, how nimble you are, how good you are at dodging things. That's dexterity. Constitution. Now, the Constitution and strength do not go hand in hand. You can actually have a very high Constitution character while having a low strength. Constitution essentially entails that you are really good at taking damage. If you drink poison, you're going to have to roll a Constitution saving throw, which we'll get to in a bit. It's a very good stat to have if you're trying to play, a big guy character. Intelligence. Intelligence is how your book smarts, how much you know about the world. So, for example, can I roll intelligence to see if I know, who this guy is? And you roll intelligence, and you'll be able to figure out, hey, this guy. It's this guy, this guy, this guy. But it's also the spellcasting modifier, or the thing you're going to roll when spellcasting for a couple of classes. Same thing with wisdom and charisma. Now, the difference between wisdom and intelligence. Wisdom is more your experience in the world. So a very wise character, who's not very intelligent, he may not know who that noble is. However, he does know that, in his experience with nobles, that, nobles are normally not the nicest of people. So he should stay away from them. But a high intelligence character with low wisdom may, fall for the noble's trap and end up, going on a horrible quest. So yeah, book smarts and, more experience. Charisma is how good you are at talking to people. It's pretty straightforward. So, now we are going to choose my generation method. I'm going to use point buy. This is pretty easy. You're going to have 27 points to essentially allocate into each of your stats. And we'll start. So I'm not really going to worry about strength since I am a bard. Dexterity, I'm going to want some of that because, I want to be able to dodge things. So let's say I want a 14 in dexterity. Constitution, I could use some of that. I'm going to say 4 in Constitution. Intelligence, how intelligent is Herbert the Horrible? Well, I think that he probably has a 12 in intelligence. Wisdom, I think he's kind of wise. I'm going to say that right there. And charisma, I think he's very charismatic because he's a bard. And bards need charisma. So, boom. And there's your stat spread. Real easy. You can go down here. These are your stats. Now we're going to choose the modifiers we get from your species. So from your species, you'll always get some modifiers. So you're able to increase your 3 of your scores by 1, or increase 2 of your scores by 2 and 1. So I'm going to choose 2 of your scores by 2 and 1. I'm going to increase dexterity by 1 and charisma by 2. And boom, there you go. The great thing about D&D Beyond is that it calculates it all for you. You know, super easy. Yeah. All right, now that I have my stats, I'll tell you the other way of doing it. So you could do manual rolled. So we'll go here, right? And as you can see, this kind of completely deletes, so be careful when switching. But now we're going to roll some stats. So if you're doing a physical game, you'll actually have to learn how to roll these, but if you're doing it here, you can just click this. Again, D&D Beyond's awesome. And this will give you numbers that you can put for your stats. And I'm rolling pretty good right now. Okay, so immediately I look into what the highest is, and I need that charisma, so that's going in charisma. This is going to go into dex. I think this will go into con. This will go into intelligence. This will go into wisdom. And this will go into strength. And then I'll go apply ability scores, and boom, my ability scores are applied. So the good thing about rolling for stats is that it can give you some, much better stats. However, there's a chance that you can get some much worse stats. So be careful. Again, your DM can also just say that they do not want you to be rolling stats, and instead they want you to be doing point buy. But we'll keep with rolling right now for this one. All right, description. You're going to be able to choose one language of your choice. I actually don't know what half of these are. But I think the ones you're going to want are probably either Dwarvish, Elvish, or Goblin. And I say Goblin especially because a lot of people really like to throw Goblins at newer players. Like, Goblins are a very nice enemy to have thrown at them. So I think Goblin. I'm going to choose Goblin. All right, background. This is where your character would have worked before becoming an adventurer. I have a lot of these because I've bought some of the books, but there's not going to be as many for you guys. I think he would have been a knight. He's a bard. He'd be an entertainer. So from this, you would essentially, get some skills. So I'm going to say he has skills in intimidation. He's the horrible. That's, scaring people. And I could choose another musical instrument. The horn. You also get some features from this and some suggested characteristics. Now we're going to get a bit into the backstory. I would highly suggest making a backstory for your character, and I mean this. A lot of people won't make backstories, and they'll end up having to, the DM will just kind of have these, very plain paper characters to work with that aren't exactly, they don't have any juices to them. So I would really layer your characters, at least by doing these. So these are essentially questions that your character is asked, right? And you could choose an answer. Now, so say personality traits, choose two. You're going to choose, you could choose which ones you think your character would have. So I know a story relevant to almost every situation, right? Whenever I come to a new place, I gossip and whatnot. I'm a hopeless romantic, right? So I think that Herbert the Horrible would be bitter if he wasn't the center of attention. And he's a gossip, right? And those are two really cool things that you already have for your character that you could use to roleplay. Again, I won't go through this all, but, I would highly suggest doing it. There's unique ones for almost every background, I believe, which is, I think really cool. And yeah. And, use this, really think about, how they all fit together and how, you can role play with your character. Again, you don't have to do this if you have a personality already in mind, but I would do it. These ones you actually do not have to fill out at all, but if you just want to fill out, the physical characteristics of what your character looks like. And backstory, obviously, if you want to add that to your character sheet. He's a puppet. Boom. All right. There you go. Now, last but not least, equipment. So once your DM could either say equipment or gold. Probably gonna say equipment. And here you could choose what you have. So you can have a rapier, a longsword, any simple weapon. This is different for every class. I'm gonna choose any simple weapon. And I think he would have a dagger. I don't think he's gonna be using a sword or a dagger that much though. You can choose a diplomat's pack or an entertainer's pack. So this would essentially be your miscellaneous loot that you'd have along with you. I think he'd be an entertainer. So he'd have some costumes with him, and that'd be pretty cool, along with the disguise kit. A lute or any other musical instrument. I'm gonna choose any other musical instrument and get my bagpipes because I know that I'm proficient with those. Um, Entertainer starting equipment, which you already get. I'm going to choose because I had the longhorn. I'm gonna choose the longhorn. And then there's some maybe items that you could get you thinking about your backstory. You have a love letter, a lock of hair, or a trinket. So think about that. Maybe Herbert's a hopeless romantic. He's got that. He's got a love letter. I don't know. Once you're done, you're gonna remember to push add to starting equipment. I'm not sure where they have this button in red. It should be in green. All right. Once you're done with that, you go push use on the backpack. Use on whatever use on whatever items that you gotten, especially your armor. Remember to equip those. Push next. Then you're gonna view character sheet. Of course, you could also export this. Ta-da! There you go. There's the character. And yeah, you get to check out all your character skills and whatnot. Look at that. Look how cool that is. Again, each class is going to have different abilities that you guys can check out. If you want to kind of go through what those are, you can go here. So I would go to features and traits, and I'll essentially organize them. So these are all the features you get from your class, all the features you get from your race, right down here. And yeah, boom. That's all. Before I go, I'd like to talk a bit about homebrew, because I know I didn't talk about that earlier. So homebrew, let me go to my different tab here, is something that your DM can allow to essentially add things that aren't official to D&D. Now, D&D Beyond has an entire homebrew page, which I think is awesome. So let's just look at some of the view of the homebrew races and see what we can find. Yeah, see? Rat folk. And you can also filter them by, oh wait, shoot, rating threshold and whatnot. You can also filter by author, strength, or, yeah. Just a lot of cool things you could do. 3 blob, that's pretty cool. 3 blobs in a trench coat. However, one thing that I do suggest about homebrew is that you have to talk about it with your DM. Especially because when you get a homebrew from online, there's kind of a coin toss whether it'll be good or not. So I would, talk about it with your DM, and if your DM is skeptical, please offer to homebrew it yourself, okay? And work with your DM on it. Some DMs won't allow homebrew, so don't be mad if that does happen. And yeah, thank you so much, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Ta-da, ta-ta, bye.